Hey, what's up, guys? So, I'm gonna do a little lesson for you using charcoal. I know that a lot of people you love doing Frida Kahlo, and I guess in this session, I'm gonna be doing a portrait. I'm using specifically just using charcoal, something easy to obtain. I'm gonna show you the process, my process of creating a portrait from sketch all the way to a finished I guess a finished illustration, and then we could even go a step further and render it out using value. So the first part of these videos are going to be more focused on using guides and lines and shapes. The second part is going to be focused more on doing value studies and just having the portrait look like a 3D rendered person. Well, these are the tools that I use. Every time I use charcoal, I love to have General's charcoal pencils. So I have three different ones. I have HB hard, I have 2B medium, and I have 4B soft. All right, so another set of tools that I have are these willow charcoal sticks, and the purpose of these are for sketching because you could easily just erase it. I have a kneaded eraser in order to lift up some of the charcoal. You do this to clean it up. Just pull and this is the way that you clean it. A shading stub, for shading. Eraser. And I use a electrical eraser too, and white charcoal, a sponge. You could actually use like a cotton swab or anything cotton, or even a sheet of like paper towel. It would work fine. All right, so I'm gonna get started on this. Let me set up my reference picture. Okay. So like I said, we're gonna be doing Frida Kahlo today. So the first thing I start is I want to measure the distance between the head and the top part of my page. And I try to do it as fast as I can, because if you go really slow, you tend to overthink things, and then it doesn't even come out accurate. So right now I'm just not even too concerned about trying to get it perfect. Right now I'm just trying to place my guides using simple shapes, circles, parallels, just basic lines. Like this. Got the ear. It's almost like an oval shape. And it's okay to make mistakes right here. It's our interpretation of what we see. We don't want to exactly copy it, but we want to get close enough. So if something doesn't look good, just erase it with the kneaded eraser, or just rub it. Like all of these lines won't show up once we start sketching it out. So gotta get the eye line. So basically, this line right here is the middle of the face. We have a very symmetrical face. We have like this line that goes in the middle, and that kind of shows that the face is not looking straight at us. It's kind of at an angle. And then I have these guides right here as the eyes, and then this one right here, the nose, is gonna be like right there, and the lips. Okay, so see, right now I'm just plotting, just trying to find it. Even using some of the shadows, I use those as guides, as reference points, because they become very important. And like I said, right now we're just trying to get a feel for this. Trying to get a feel for where everything is placed, like the placement of everything. I got the shadow that goes kind of like here on this side. Like this. And it's always about adjusting, moving the lines if they don't feel right. See, like this line right here, the initial one, now I'm gonna move it over here. Always measuring, looking at distances, like from the bottom part of the chin to like the collar where it starts, the fold of her blouse. It's like this. I really admire Frida Kahlo's art. It's pretty amazing to me, like all the kind of the abstract parts of her life and how she created, pieces of art with it. Okay. Okay. Usually I work on a toned paper, so this is not white. This is kind of like a gray tone, and it's perfect to work on this kind of paper because whenever I want to get like the highlights, I just go to my white charcoal pencil and I just start, using the highlights. So it's always good to start with a mid-tone. Even when I paint, I always try to start off with some sort of tone. I rarely start with a white canvas or white piece of paper, or even when I'm working digitally, I always have to tone my canvas or my working space. It's always got to be some sort of tone. And using like a gray as a neutral color is perfect, especially if you're working in color. Yeah, but since we're using charcoal, it's perfect because we have like all the different tones that we're able to use. Okay, so I got my initial drawing like this. Okay, so now what I do is I will go ahead and shade it just a little bit. Even though the actual rendering and shading part will come after. Right now I just want to get like a feel of the structure of the head. Right now it's just capturing that. Like this. My reference. Okay. All right. Now what I do is I go in, get my fingers a little bit full of charcoal. That way I could just blend it in like this. You gotta use whatever you can as your tools. And right now I'm using my fingers as my tools. Gotta get that tone. And the cool thing about charcoal is that whenever you use charcoal, you always have to add and subtract. So you add with the charcoal and you subtract with the eraser. That's another tool that you use. So like typically people think that, using an eraser, it's only, to fix mistakes. But when it comes to art, you use an eraser as another tool. And specifically in charcoal, it applies perfectly because, you go in and you start removing some of the areas that you're going to want to modify your values. There you go. Just a basic tone right here. Very general. You start off big, very blocky. You'll work your way through. And I know this might be very intimidating for a lot of people, especially if you're new at art, but man, this is, creating art is one of the, like, if you follow along, you practice every day, this is something very simple to actually do. It's just learning technique and just some of the rules that you have to follow. There is always a right and a wrong way to approaching art. And you always learn something new. There's tricks that you pick up on the way. There's artists that do it a different way, and you're like, hey, this is pretty cool. I'm gonna try it that way. And you do that. Okay. I'm gonna move to my pencil, and I want to just capture some of the areas that I actually don't want to erase once I start toning it a little bit more. And this is when you start getting a little bit more precise. You might even go a little bit slower. I think the eyes are the hardest part of a human, like to capture in a portrait. I think it's the eyes. If you don't get the eyes right, like, you fail. I think that's what, as humans, we look, we focus a lot on people's eyes when we talk to them. So that's like the hardest thing to do, is capture someone's eyes. I gotta modify this eye because it's a little bit too much on the left. We have eyelids. So always have that darker side of an eyelid right here. And whenever you create art, it's always observation, drawing what you see. Of course, like knowing what you're drawing is also very helpful, but it's always just knowing, or just being very observant, just being able to look at life and try to imitate it, try to capture the moment, the mood. Okay, so this one right here, I gotta modify it a little bit because I think it's lower right here. A lot of times it's easier to use a grid to draw up, from a portrait. You draw a grid on your actual photo reference, and you draw a grid on your paper, and then you're able to draw it piece by piece, segment by segment. It's easy sometimes to do it that way because you don't have to deal with trying to just You know, you'll have a better, more accurate uh, representation of what you're looking at. So I gotta here. Life drawing and portrait illustration is probably some of my best. You know, I just have fun doing these, just capturing people, capturing models. Life drawing sessions are my favorite. I've had those for since art school. I just enjoy it so much. Like this ear right here, probably move it a little bit more this way. Right here. It's always about modifying it. Sometimes you catch the little things. You just try to capture it as best as you can at the beginning before you fully commit to whatever it is that you're painting, drawing, whatever. You capture those little mistakes at the beginning. That way, it's a lot easier to fix them, or you won't have an issue later on when you're fully committed to your drawing or your painting. In this case, you know, this charcoal drawing, like I just want to be able to capture as much as I can, as best as I can. That way, it's just easier. I don't have to worry about this when I'm rendering it. Most of those decisions have already been made. I've already thought about them. Okay. There you go. Sometimes, like when you don't see something very well, you don't try to spend too much time on areas that are going to be, too dark, or, even though I know that the ear's right here, I really can't see in detail what's going on, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. That's not going to be my focal point. I don't want to create something that's going to drag too much attention or pull the eye away from what really matters, which is the eyes. Okay. There you go. Okay. There you go. This cool little scarf going on right there. Okay. Usually when I do these drawings before I even start rendering it, I just try to capture as much as I can, hatching and doing these cool little suggestions of shadow. And for a quick drawing, like you could even just call it, this could just be your sketch. This is good enough to be a sketch right here. call it a day. You know, that's why I've decided to make this into two parts. The first part is your drawing like this, where you could just take it, you know, push it enough that it's a pretty cool drawing. You know, you're still, you know, try to capture the likeness, and just practice on using line and you know, hatching. Just, it's good practice. There you go. So this would be, you could actually call this, you know, a day. Like, just, you're done with your drawing. Like, if you're a beginner, this is, you know, this is good enough. This is a portrait that you know, you've captured the likeness. And you're done. So on the second part of this video tutorial, I'm gonna show you, or video demonstration, I'm going to show you what I do in my process to start adding some value, like detailed value to this sketch. You know, just to push it even further, try to get as much as I can out of it. So I'll see you in the next one.